Guys, today we're going to watercolor a snowman in front of a little village, and there's going to be some special guests to our painting. So first I'm just dropping in the sky with a regular number 2 pencil. I just sketched out my snowman and my village, and then dropped in the sky around it, filled it with water first, and then just sort of brushed it with the blue. So as it dried, it just sort of did its magical watercolor blend. And for some reason, I put the snowman's nose on first. There's never a real rhyme or reason to where I'm going, where I'm starting and where I'm going. So I did the tree, and then I'm coming back over here. I think I popped back over here to do the hollyberry leaves because it was the same color as the tree, and so I thought it would be on my brush with the green, Christmas green. So now, in a previous snowman painting, it had these 2 different colors around that warm sort of gold color of reflection on the left, and then the gray, almost with a little bit of lavender in it on the right. And in the previous painting, I loved how it gave the snowman dimension. So I am doing that again with this snowman. And I put some of that little lavender underneath the brim of his hat for a shadow on the snow. And now I'm going in and making his scarf. And I had fun with this scarf because I wanted to use colors that would look fuzzy. So I'm using this red because, I mean, it's a Christmas snowman. But then I'm choosing to use this sparkly kind of mint color in between. And I didn't wait for the red to fully dry. So there'd just be that little bit of bleed that might make it look like the, fibers in a crocheted scarf, maybe. So I let it sort of bleed together a little bit, and the iridescent or sparkly nature of the mint color in my palette, really, I loved how it really made that scarf kind of look soft and like fabric or like knit. So now we're putting his buttons on and his little eyes. And I'll let that dry, and then I'll try to put a little shine in it later on. So now we're doing the hat, and whoa, and there's the hat. Sometimes there's a little bit of technical difficulties, and part of the video gets jumped. I was fast. But I left that stripe in the hat without pigment, and then used a wet brush to sort of drag the black just across it to make it look kind of like a shiny hat. Now, you can see I don't have a watercolor brush. I'm using a Posca pen to fill in the snow on the top of these buildings, because it's just a paint that I find really it just fills in that crisp white more than gouache would, or certainly more than white watercolor would. And now I'm going just with opposing, or like just a pattern of different dots to make like this house has put Christmas lights on its border. My head keeps coming into frame here. Sorry about that. As I make more and more of these videos, I'm getting better at recognizing when my head's in the way or things like that. So bear with me. I get better. I promise. I promise I learn from it. Not in this video necessarily, but moving forward. So now I'm just adding a bright yellow inside the windows, so it looks like somebody's home and there's warm light and life inside the windows of this little village. And I think that the color that I used for that light inside the windows was more sort of a neon yellow green than I really liked. So I think I warm it up a little bit later. And I decided to glaze the sky with a little bit darker up at the top, so it would make sense that you would see the light coming from both the Christmas lights and the windows. Because if it was bright sunlight, you wouldn't necessarily see that. So I tried to give the idea that maybe this was night or late evening. Now I'm giving the snowman a little present. And some detail in his holly berries. The present, I was like trying to figure out the geometric, I was like, oh, so I gotta let that dry and come back to it later. Now we're gonna paint the little Christmas visitors. This visitor is none too thrilled with having to wear Christmas antler headband. But you'll see as he comes to life here that he is a sweet, maybe slightly grumpy bulldog. And I loved using this warm kind of reddish brown, not red like a cherry red, but red like a dog color red, for his eye patch and his back end. One of my siblings has a bulldog that is this color, so I wanted to give his eye patch that color. I sketched him in first. Animals are not something that I can usually just freeform paint. I've got to have an under sketch. Now we're adding his little nose and his eyes. And all of a sudden, he's getting a little bit of character. Now here, when I'm watercoloring his face, I'm wanting to create his wrinkles, and I kept going back and forth as I was doing this, thinking, should I be making the wrinkles with maybe just like a darker brown versus the black? I wasn't loving that black, so I do go in and sort of lighten that with a wet brush, because I just wasn't in love with the severity of that line work. See, there I go. Just kind of used a wet brush with nothing on it to sort of just soften that out and make it a little bit more like actual wrinkles. I always struggle when I'm watercoloring. I want to make things look more realistic than generally watercolors do. So I fight. See, I'm doing it again. I'm using that dark, and I'm looking at it, sitting back. I'm going, gotta lighten that up. So I pick up some of that pigment again. I love bulldogs. I have a bulldog, and I just I love how they just kind of flatten themselves out. And this guy is flattening himself out on the snow next to the snowman, and he's not happy about wearing these antlers. So now we're going to give him a shadow so he looks like he's actually on snow instead of just floating in the air. Shadows, I mean, really change a painting. If you're doing a painting and you don't consider maybe where your light source is coming from and where a shadow might be, I think adding that, if you haven't been adding that, really will add a new dimension to your painting that just makes it pop. And with watercolors, like shadows are just almost a joy to paint because they just blend and dry out so nicely and transparent like an actual shadow. I'm putting his little other ear in there. Excuse me. And of course the little white. So I feel like I say this every painting, but it's important you guys can know that when I add those pops of white, it is white from a Posca paint pen, because I have found that that is the best thing that works with my style of painting versus using like white gouache paint. I just use that Posca pen and I just put some out on the piece of paper and just dab. Okay, our next friend is going to come to life. And he just looks funny right away. You're like, it almost looks like a bikini. But this guy, I'm putting his brown in first, or his kind of reddish brown, dog red. And there are his ears. What kind of dog is he gonna be? I have actually never painted this kind of dog before, and one of my neighbors has this dog, and the last time I saw, he gets loose all the time and he's just bounding around the neighborhood. And it's funny because he's very young, he's a puppy, and he's just like just having a grand old time, and usually it's one of the young kids that's chasing him. And last time I saw him, I thought, you know what, I'm gonna have to paint a Doberman. I'm gonna have to do it, because if I don't, I will regret it, because they're just so very cute. So those little dots look like, oh, those were gonna be his eyes are, but it's not. It's the little brown that's above a Doberman's eyes. So here his eyes are gonna go in right there. And you can almost not see those little brown dots anymore. And I love his little lower lip. Looks like he's a little bit pouty. And that's because he's also going to get a set of Christmas antlers. Spoiler alert. So he's not, super thrilled. So you guys may have seen me paint a black furred animal before, and it's just always really interesting to me, because you think like, oh, the animal has black fur, how are you gonna add dimension? And it's always really amazing to me how much like light gray and even white you can put on a dog to give it that dimension, and it still looks black. See how I did in his face here. And here comes the little ears that are on the headband. Little ears. And you can see why he might be a little grumpy. And then here comes his antlers. And I'm using that sparkly paint from this paint palette. You can't really see in this video, but at the very end of the video, I will pick the painting up and sort of turn the position so you can see all the parts of it that are sparkly. So now I'm framing out those windows and giving them some little window panes. And again, I'm so sorry, when my head comes into frame, the focus leaves. So I'm just sort of outlining, giving some dimension to the star on the tree. And now I'm gonna go back in and try to fix this bow that I originally was like, oh, this bow is a disaster. So we're gonna fix the bow. And the white, again, is the Posca paint. So I'm just adding the shine. And then I used a clean, wet brush to sort of blend that white. So now it looks, I think, a little bit more like a bow. And I'm increasing the white highlight in the snow and on the carrot nose with that Posca pen. Now I'm taking a darker red to add some dimension to almost make those antlers look like they're like stuffed. So they're like squishy stuffed antlers. So I'm trying to give them some dimension. And I'm adding some gray through the snow here, just because there are shadows. I mean, when you look at a field covered in snow, it's not generally just white. You've got it. And I'm adding little white bits on the antlers. And now the snow. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. I'm trying to strategically put the dots of snow on top of the dog and the antlers. All right, now as I'm changing the position, you can see the shiny antlers and the shiny house. See, a little glittery. This watercolor palette is amazing. Here they are. I hope you enjoyed painting this special holiday scene.